originally I wanted to be a fiction writer, and I wrote a lot of fiction, and I wrote a lot of short stories and novellas and things like that. And the characters in these stories, a lot of the male characters were flawed characters, and they might have been misogynistic, but even in those stories, a lot of them, even though the main male character was looking down on the woman in the story, the female always ended up prevailing. I was going to make the Fever Hold album a whole 16-song concept album, and that followed two characters, a male and a female, and they were flawed characters, and they had a lot of problems, alcohol and drug addiction. But ultimately, the male figure did not survive, and the female figure was on her way to overcoming her issues. That was reduced to a half of an album, only 5-6 songs on the release, and I condensed that story down. And there's one particular song, it's called Fisher Girl. And that song, I had a little issue with Jenny about it, because Jenny thought what the male character was doing in that song to take advantage of the female character was not appropriate. It was actually traumatic in a sense. And I understood Jenny's position on that, but it was not glorifying the male's character's, what he was doing. It was actually stabbing at or criticizing that kind of behavior, and the female was a victim of that circumstance. She put herself in that situation because of her alcohol abuse, but it was not being critical of the female. To answer this big question, if I'm telling stories, they're not about me, and the point of view is not me speaking, and therefore it gives me creative freedom to explore some areas that some people might think, if it were coming from me, would be misogynistic, but that's not me. Now, as far as the new lyrics are concerned, recently something happened where I thought, what if I could write something a little more pleasant, positive, and even a love song, possibly. And that was inspired by me wanting to write a song for my wife, because she's helped me so much over the years. We've been through some tough times. I've been through some tough times, and she's always been there for me. And I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to be cheesy and all that, and it really was a break from what I normally do. The song is called You Sway Me, and it was my attempt to write a poppy love song to my wife. And that started me thinking that maybe because the music itself was leaning itself more towards upbeat and pop, I could explore a little bit more lighter themes than I had done in the past. So that is the difference between what I'm doing now and what I did before, with one clarification. I'm still writing those gritty, dark songs, and they'll probably be a combination of happier type stuff and the gritty stuff on the next album. Which musicians do I look up to as inspiration? I got the top 3. Roger Waters is number 1. And not really Roger Waters, he's the main songwriter for Pink Floyd, for those who don't know. Floyd did his solo work. I referred to an album I did, a concept album I did before. That was really inspired by a solo album by Roger Waters called The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, where his story took place in a dream in 45 minutes, with 4 a.m. starting the first song, and then it goes to whatever, 4:45 and ends, but it tells a story within the dream. Really love that about Roger Waters. He can be in your head, and it's not for everybody, but it really moves me. That's Roger Waters. Then we have Mark Linkous from Sparkle Horse. He taught me that you can be you don't have to master your instrument to write good songs, and I obviously can't master the guitar. I fell in love with all of his work. He's brilliant. Unfortunately, he took his own life. Tragic ending. It's a really sad story in the end, but along the way, he created the most beautiful music that can make me cry, basically. I've cried many times. The third one would be Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac. And I know it's an odd choice, but he does something that I've been accused of doing a little bit, like from Fuyuki, which is the twisted way of making some songs, and a little bit of the style of chords and progressions. I'm obviously not in his league at all, but I do feel there's just some kind of connection between what we're doing, especially when we look at his work on the album Tusk, which he produced and wrote a lot of the best songs. That's a kind of a underground album for most people. That also can move me to tears. He's a great songwriter, and I don't think he gets enough credit as a amazing musician and producer. Those are the top three. Why do I write about people with substance abuse problems, alcoholism, drug abuse? It's fascinating to me. I look at it this way. I don't drink anymore, but when I did drink, there's this window where when you start to drink, you are, let's say in the first couple of hours, it's bliss and it's beautiful and it's amazing. And then once it goes more and more and more, you lose control and it's not fun anymore, really. I've always thought about that. And let's take those 2 hours, and let's talk about people who become addicted to drugs or alcohol. I mean, seriously, like alcoholics. There is a period of time in their life where they have it under control, and it actually makes them feel good, and they love it. And people never talk about that period. So you condense that 1 hour, 2 hour buzz, and you say it's 1 or 2 years or 3 years, and then it doesn't work anymore, and you fall, you crash. A lot of people do. I'm fascinated with not the crash itself. I'm fascinated with the fact that it used to be good. And all my characters who face these problems, I share the good times. I share when it worked for them. And I don't think people should shy away from that. I think they should accept that there is a period of time when it works. That's my fascination with it. If I went straight to the addiction and the alcoholism, that's not interesting to me. The progression, getting there, and then what do you do when you get there, is what's fascinating to me. I read a lot of memoirs and biographies about this topic, and a lot of books about that. And I keep coming back to that because of those reasons.
This is Soundwave Dave coming to you live from Thailand, playing live from Thailand with the Fever Hold.
Tempest, angel, what have you done?